Welcome to the WPAOG podcast. In this episode, we welcome retired Lieutenant General Dan Karbler. He served nearly 37 years in the U.S. Army, leading global missile defense and space operations across 23 locations and 11 time zones. A West Point graduate of 1987 and former commander of Army Space and Missile Defense Command. Dan now brings battlefield precision to the big screen, advising on and acting in Kathryn Bigelow's latest national security thriller, A House of Dynamite. Please enjoy this episode with our host, Jamie Enos.
Dan, thank you so much for being on WPAOG podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you. So most people don't expect a three-star general to just show up in a Hollywood film, right? I don't know how you made this transition, but can you tell us how you got into this industry?
Yeah, sure, Jamie. It was not on my retirement to-do list for sure. We live up in Huntsville, and I got an email and a phone call from Lieutenant General retired Doug Lute, who was an advisor on the initial scenes of this movie that had to do with the White House Situation Room. And so when they were wrapping up the filming of those White House scenes, Kathryn Bigelow, the director, said, "Doug, do you know any of your friends that knows anything about STRATCOM or Fort Greely or missile defense or nuclear operations?" And he goes, "I got a guy that's done all those jobs and he's just retired." So Doug reached out to me, gave me a call. He said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" And I said, "Sounds intriguing. What do I have to lose?" And so he gave my contact information to Greg Shapiro, the producer. Greg called me up and said, "Hey, Dan, would you mind doing a Zoom call with myself and Kathryn Bigelow and a couple other folks involved with the movie and see if you'd be interested in helping us out?" I said, "Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds great." So we set up this Zoom call. And so I had an idea. My daughter would say, "This is why I'm a little extra." So I had my camera off on purpose. And so they're all popping in, the typical Zoom call. You see them all come in, they're all chatting about how wonderful Iceland is this time of year or whatever. And so there's a little break in the conversation. So I clicked on my microphone, but I left the camera off. And I just went into, "This is the DDO from the Pentagon convening a special security conference. Classification of this conference is top secret, TK, SI, polling U.S. STRATCOM, U.S. Northern Command, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, SecDef cables, military assistant to the Secretary. SecDef cables, please bring the Secretary of Defense in the conference. Mr. Secretary, this is the DDO. Because of time constraints on this missile attack, recommend we transition immediately from a national security conference to a strategic deterrence conference, and we bring the president into the conference. POC, please bring the president into the conference." And I stopped there, and then I clicked on my camera, and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, that's how the worst day of America's history will begin. I hope your script does us some justice." And that was my cold opening. And Kathryn Bigelow, I like to remind my wife this, Kathryn Bigelow has won an Academy Award for Best Director. So she has to have an eye for acting talent. Said, "Oh my God, Dan, that was fantastic. I got to have you in my movie." And so that was how I got involved in the movie business and got hired on.
Wow.
And so for the next 90 minutes of that Zoom call, we talked about the movie, their ideas. They shipped me the script, so I was able to review the script. And then that was then end of July. And then end of August, beginning of September is when I flew up to be on set with Kathryn to do the Fort Greely scenes, the STRATCOM scenes, and the scenes in the SecDef's office.
Yeah. So the film you're talking about is A House of Dynamite, directed by, as you mentioned, the first woman to win an Academy Award for Best Director, Kathryn Bigelow. She won that for the war drama, The Hurt Locker in 2008. Phenomenal movie. And like you said, phenomenal director there. Great work that she's done. And you were the technical advisor on this film, A House of Dynamite. And then you were also casted in the role of the STRATCOM Chief of Staff, which is a job that you actually did in real life as a two-star.
Yeah.
So, I mean, full circle, kind of just everything all connecting. And so here you are, you're advising as the technical advisor because you are an expert in the field. I mean, they can't get any more expert than that. What does that entail? Like, are you straightening uniforms? Are you language? Like, this works, this doesn't work? And then what happens when they're like, "Well, too bad, it looks better on camera"? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, what does it look like? What do you do?
Sure. Really good question. So the first thing is I told Kathryn, I said, only for you, Kathryn, will I take a demotion from 3-star to 2-star to reprise my former
That's true too.
chief of staff role. So kind of the first thing was just the authenticity of the sets. So when I walked into the recording studio where they had all the sets built, a place called Cinelise in Jersey City, outside New York City, I was amazed at the Stratcom set and how accurate it was. It was 99.99% accurate. I mean, Jeremy Hindle is the production design guy, and he built that set. He built the Greeley set. He built the SecDef's office. He builds all the sets. Just an incredible, incredible talent. I was able, after they hired me on, I was actually able to get an in-person visit to the real Stratcom headquarters for Kathryn, for Greg, and for Jeremy. And so we were able to go to Stratcom. We were able to get a visit down to the Stratcom battle deck, the highly classified battle deck. And Jeremy, the production design guy, he had already pretty much built out the Stratcom set. He walked in there, he kind of looked it around, and he said, well, I think Stratcom has it just about right. So he just absolutely nailed it. He was like a proud dad as he walked in. He's like, yep, I got this right. And then Kathryn and I were able to go up and have an also call with John Cotton, the Stratcom commander. So it was a really, really good visit. So just the visual part was so well done. You asked, so uniforms, right? As a military guy, and we all know this, you watch a military movie and you're just forever just like, why is the uniform screwed up? We just start nitpicking every little thing. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have any of those little nitpicky problems with uniforms or how they carried themselves, how they talked, the language that they used, etc. There's a myth out there that you have to have something wrong. In a movie, you have to have something purposefully wrong about a uniform. That's urban legend. That's not true. So we went for authenticity of the uniforms, the sets, etc., and did a very good job. And in the way that when I was given the script, I made recommendations. Some recommendations they took, some recommendations they didn't. But it was always about making sure that you had a compelling, a movie that was visually, intellectually, and emotionally compelling to the audience. I don't like to say the word entertaining because this movie, it entertains, it's tense, it keeps you on edge, but it's more compelling for the audience because of the subject matter that we dealt with. And the way that Kathryn used me was I sat right next to her. I was amazed. I'd never been on set. I'd never done this before. So I was kind of, when I showed up on set, I saw some actors who were dressed up in military uniforms. So I just went and said, hey, fix this, got them all straight. And then Kathryn shows up on set, and I just kind of planned on, I was going to stay in the background. If I saw something, I'd point it out. And she set up my chair right next to her chair. She said, no, you are going to sit right next to me. And the way that she directs is not from behind the camera, but she is offset. She has playback monitors where then she watches the different camera angles going on, watches the actors. And then as we're watching, she would ask me, hey, what do you think about this? Or I would give her some recommendations. They're called notes in the movies. I give her a couple of notes, and she would say, okay, go at cut. I would go in there and talk to the actors, or maybe talk to the cinematographer a little bit about good shots, what have you. And she gave me free reign to go work with the actors or to do that. It was actually a little intimidating because once she got day one, she's like, I don't know, go run it through Dan first. Has Dan approved it yet? Has Dan seen it? I don't want to see it till Dan's kind of giving the thumbs up on it. And I was like, cool. And so there we were. She really trusted me and my expertise and judgment.
It's like reporting to the cadet in the right bash, Dan. It's like back to beast almost, right? Like stepping up and having your uniform inspected and dropping your bags. And I don't know, it's like the panic attack or
Yeah. The beauty is that they're professional actors too. So as soon as you give them something, they kind of know, they internalize like, hey, I know exactly now where I need to go. This was the other cool thing about Kathryn Bigelow's directing style, about her being off camera. She's very much an empowering director. As I learned, there's some directors who will be right behind the camera and they'll say, oh, hold your hand this way or do it this way. Kathryn doesn't like to do that because she feels that if the director is given that kind of guidance, direction right away, it makes the actors too mechanical. And then they can't grow into their character and they can't develop their own character. Her style is very much like my leadership style, empowering, just subordinates so they can grow into who they are as leaders. You can give them direction when you need to, but let them kind of figure it out within the intent that you provide them and watch what they do. And so my leadership style, her directing style were very similar. And I think that's why we made a good team.
So in this film, you did have an acting role in this film as well. And there's a close up of your class ring that stands out. And I think grads that watch it it's very noticeable. Has anybody reached out to you, classmates, former soldiers? Have they called you out on it? Have they given you a hard time or congratulatory high fives about it? What's been the response?
A hard time, a little good-natured grinning, I guess, for sure.
I bet.
But a lot of congrats. Yeah, my classmates are like, look at the ring. And one classmate said they should have titled this movie Lord of the Ring kind of deal. So yeah, so it was, and that was a cool close-up. Barry Ackroyd is a cinematographer, and he and Kathryn work together so well in so many movies. They read each other's minds. He knows what kind of shot that she wants to have, and especially in that setting. So he shot me. There was the ring. I was glad it made the edit, made the cut, and got on there. There's a tragedy.
So were we. It's a great shot. We at AOG, we saw it, and it was like, that's that West Point image, right? Like that's the long gray line right there. So, and
it was really clear too. It's amazing. Yeah. You see the ring. Now there's a tragic story. My ring got stolen. We did a screening in Washington D.C. for the movie. Did a daily matinee, and my ring was in a backpack. I'd just flown in. I'd taken my ring off, and a car got broken into, and they stole my suitcase and my backpack, and they stole the ring out of my backpack. So there's some tragic. I don't know what the movie term is, but there's a tragedy to my ring. So credit to Herff Jones. I was able to call them up, and I have a replacement on the way, but the movie famous ring had been taken. But it was also good because the detectives who are on the case, I sent them a screenshot of the movie saying, yep, this is really my ring. It really got stolen. And they did catch the guy, but they couldn't recover the ring yet. So anyway, for anybody listening, if they see a class of 87 ring with Dan Karbler's name inside of it, it's mine.
Well, you'd be surprised at how many times we do get those sent into AOG with people finding them on public listings of people selling them, or in pawn shops, or even yard sales and people buy them and send them back in even for free because they're trying to reclaim them and not even connected to the long gray line. Just people trying to, I found this ring, or any kind of memorabilia even connected to West Point. So definitely we will be on the lookout for that. That's a tragedy, that story, but I'm glad you were able to get it.
Yep. The other piece too, my real ring and my real uniform. So I didn't have to go to wardrobe or costume. Mm-hmm. I just brought my own uniform with me, still had my name tag on it. The only thing that changed was my rank from 3 stars, and they sewed 2 stars on for me. But it was kind of cool to just be able to wear my old uniform again.
Yeah. Like you said, the demotion, but that's okay though, right? It all worked out. That's so funny. But, it's funny. It's, again, having that role in real life, and like, looking back, you've served in these high pressure environments in your Army career. What do you think your personal habits and your routine helped you stay focused and energized and effective and getting to that high pinnacle part of your career as a 3-star general?
Yeah, for sure. Physical fitness, right? Wake up every morning, get my workout in. I mean, that's religious. If I don't miss a morning, because I just know if I miss the morning, I would feel like I'm stuck in mud, and just the day would just start out not on a high note. So being able to stay close to that routine, being able to stay professionally connected still, even though retired, still being able to stay involved with air and missile defense or space capabilities, kind of my background, what's going on within the Department of War, and always staying in touch with my contemporaries has been really important. And it helped out in the movie too, because I was, as the technical advisor, if I had a question, I couldn't remember something, I'd pick up the phone and I said, you're not going to believe this. I'm doing this movie. I need some help on something. And then people are like, what's the movie? And the title was like under super double secret probation. And so I wasn't allowed to talk about what the title of the movie was. They said, well, it's about a missile attack in North America. That's about all I could leave it at. And but my contacts out there were able to then provide me with information, all with the goal of making sure that we had the authenticity of the movie stayed at the level that Kathryn wanted it at and that the viewers would expect.
Yeah. And when you're filming, right, they just edit out, right? It just deletes and you redo it, and it's kind of no big deal. Maybe monetary cost for the most part. There's no super high stakes most of the times, but in your position, it's high stakes, right? And the theme of this movie, it's all high stakes. So how do you deal with that in like your leadership approach, right? And when you're dealing with the high stakes, how do you communicate that to your subordinates? What would you recommend for younger grads as they navigate their careers?
Yeah, so you have to be very, very good at your craft. Whatever your branch is, whatever your role, your mission is, you've got to be good at it so that then you have the confidence in the fundamentals in your foundation. Because when those curveballs come at you, or high pressure or complexity comes in, if you don't have that good basic foundation to fall back on, you start to make mistakes. You can get nervous, which is going to affect your potential judgment or recommendations, or could affect your decisions. And so you've got to become the master of your craft. And you do that through repetition. You do that through practice. You do it through rehearsals. You do it by staying current with contemporaries, whether that's reading, listening to a podcast. Sometimes it's just having a cup of coffee with friends and bouncing some ideas off of each other and get very good. And the other thing too is because you have this good foundation, now you have complexity that gets thrown in there, is you're able to think through potential solutions. But as you're thinking through them, you can look at the second and third order effects downstream of a particular decision, and you can kind of war game that in your mind and say, well, that's probably not a good decision because the second or third order effect could result in the outcome that we didn't want. And so you reel that back in and maybe go down a different path and provide yourself with different options. So that's kind of how I approach different things. But I think the main thing really is you've got to be an expert at your craft. And in our business, where technology drives a lot of it, if you don't know the technology behind the capabilities and and how the technology enables the capabilities, and then be able to talk about that to folks who might not be as well versed in it for you, that becomes critically important. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is you have to be able to, even though you're technologically focused, you have all the nitnoy details, to be able to explain it in layman's terms and to an external audience or a boss who is not as well versed in your technological capabilities as you have. You got to be able to boil it down for them so that they can understand it and then make use of your information.
Would you say you're really connected to your classmates then? Do you interact with them often or rely on them often? How connected is your class?
Yeah, so class 87, our country we strengthen. We're very well connected. Kiko Murillo is our class president, does a fantastic job through all sorts of venues of social media. During the Army-Navy games, we have a huge class tailgate, usually about 300 people that come to our class tailgate. Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, we need to know what parking lot that's in. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
And so he does a good job as a class president, keeping us all informed of what's going on. And the class 87, by the way, year group 87, we're the only year group that when we commissioned second lieutenants, it took us 24 months to get promoted to first lieutenant instead of the normal 18 months. Ooh. So we're special that way because second lieutenants for an extra long period of time. You can make your second lieutenant jokes as like you want to. I know within my small group of folks when we were stationed in Germany, once we reached the 18-month point, we started putting second lieutenant promotable starting the next 6 months. The old year groups 18 months, and then we were the only year group that was 24 months right after our year group that went back to 18 months. So we were all second lieutenant promotables. But it's those kind of things like they forge those bonds and keep those bonds going throughout your career, whether you serve 5 years or stay in a long time.
That must make a good reunion joke when you guys get together.
Yeah, it sure does.
And a core has or what have you a moment,
Yeah. One other thing too, you asked
for 24 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and heaven forbid if somebody didn't get promoted second or first lieutenant after 24 months. You mentioned our classmates. And so what Kiko did too, he made me the class legacy officer. So my responsibility now is to reach out to classmates who have kids, just like I do, who have kids who are at West Point as cadets or who are grads. So you help that long gray line. You're able to spread that line further out, because so many people, my classmates, have kids who are contemporaries of my kids. Matter of fact, my daughter, she's stationed up at Joint Base Lewis McChord right now. She's a battery commander in an air defense battalion up here. Her classmate and the daughter of one of my classmates is a fellow battery commander in the same battalion.
Oh, neat. That's awesome.
So the small world of West Point, the small world of air defense comes together. So, and as this class legacy officer is kind of cool because it helps keep me connected with my classmates as well as in their kids.
Yeah. You mentioned your daughter as a grad, your son's a grad, your son-in-law's a grad, your niece is a grad, very big family legacy coming out of your family. I'd say your family has instilled selfless service, of course. And
Jamie, and before I get in trouble, my wife did 26 years as an Air Force nurse. So she served on active duty and reserves. So I would be remiss if I didn't include
that. Yes.
my joint spouse, my Air Force retired major, for her service,
which is incredible, right? Dual military successful careers in and of itself is another whole podcast that we could have, which I would love to do, honestly. So yes, incredible family service there. So what is it like when you first learned that your children wanted to come to West Point? I mean, are you thrilled? Are you nervous? Like, what is that? What happens? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, I was surprised. So my daughter, I was shocked because we were in Hawaii for her freshman and sophomore year of high school. And she was all about Waikiki and scuba diving and surfing and shaka, and West Point was the furthest thing from her mind. And we never pushed it. They had enough exposure to the Army and Army Navy games. And so she kind of knew. And then when we moved from Hawaii to Northern Virginia, her junior year in high school, little different environment, different friend group. And she approached me towards the end of her junior year and said, "Hey, I'd like to do summer leader experience, Dad. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you should give it a shot if that's what you want to do and see what you think." And so she went and did SLE, and she came back after SLE. And of course, while she's at SLE, my wife and I were kind of like, "Well, I don't know. She's not a get up at 5 a.m. kind of a person." She comes back from SLE and she's like, I love it. This is awesome, Dad." And I said, "Well, you got up at 5 a.m. and do PT?" She goes, "Yeah, it was great." I'm thinking to myself, who are you? But she found a group of people that shared her same values, shared her same desires, a lot of the same background, because some of them were also military brats. She ran into friends that she knew from previous assignments that we had had.
Oh, wow.
And so she was hooked. So she went through the application process, and I made it very clear to her that this had to be her decision, that I did not want her approaching something she thought Dad, wanted her to do it. So she took it on and got accepted and did her 4 years. And my son, again, do what you want there, kiddo. And so he applied out. And by the way, both my kids got accepted to all the service academies. And so my son, he went to West Point, but he saw what his sister does. It wasn't me, right? I'm just old Dad. But he saw what Lauren was able to do, the friends, and I think that he liked the fact that there was a little bit of structure to going to West Point. And so he applied and got in too. And I'm really glad he did, because his plebe year was COVID. And I don't even want to think about, I don't want to be pejorative on civilian colleges and their response to COVID, but I knew at West Point, Daryl Williams was the soup, and I knew he was going to make sure that the cadets were taken care of. And by the way, Daryl and I were in the same company at West Point. He was a firstie when I was a plebe, F4, go Frogs, ribbit. But I knew Daryl was going to take care of all the cadets. And so then when my daughter graduated, she went air defense. She didn't go air defense because of Dad. She went air defense because she saw the opportunities that females in air defense had as a combat arm. Heidi Brown, class of 81, 2-star general. We've had female brigade commanders, the aide to the Secretary of the Army, Lourdes Costas, air defender. And my daughter, so she saw these opportunities for females in air defense. She went air defense. Deployed a bunch of times already, even though she only graduated 5 years ago. And my son went air defense, not because of me, but he saw his sister deploying and getting to do these cool things, and not being a guy who wanted to sit in the motor pool all day long and not have the opportunity to deploy. He went air defense too. So of course you're proud that your kids following your footsteps at West Point, but to be air defenders as well is pretty cool.
Yeah, but I imagine it's a balance, right? It's you've been there, done that, right? And then at the same time, you've got pride, and then you've got concern, right? So it's like this trifecta of how to navigate that as parents. So
yeah, after 27 years, my daughter finally realized.
By the way, it's both of you, because your wife is also probably going through all of that as well, right? So
yeah, so very distinct phone calls that happen, or FaceTime calls. I get the ones about the Army and command or being a platoon leader. My wife Leah, she gets the calls about everything else.
Right.
But it is amazing. After 27 years, my daughter finally realized that Dad actually have something to offer, and
and maybe a sigh of relief that no one went to Navy. A little
bit. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Right. I think I told them both that they wouldn't be on my SGLI, which is going to take it.
Right. Well, I guess my last question would be then, as a parent of 2 grads and a family legacy here, and after a wonderful career that you served, what advice would you have for other parents then as they navigate this?
Yeah, well, whether they're son or daughters contemplating going to West Point, so the first thing is you got to let them come to that decision on their own. Mm. And once you have your kids there and they're cadets, it's probably overstated, but just be very supportive for them. Be there for them when you need to be, not always when they need you to be. Sometimes you got to let them figure stuff out on their own, and West Point is a great place to allow that. I love the fact that Beast Barracks, they go 6 weeks without their cell phones. I really wish they could go 4 years without their cell phones. But I think it might have been the first handwritten letter that we had gotten from either kid was during Beast Barracks. But being able to be supportive of your kids, but not overbearing, is really important. And then making the opportunities to get up to West Point for all the great experiences that West Point provides. Way more than when I was a cadet. 8A wasn't a thing. March back wasn't as big of an event as it is now. Just all the different things that West Point lays in now. Parents being able to get up there to the academy to be part of that is really important. Then once your kids graduate, here's a piece of advice that I share that people don't think about too much. But we want to go to our kids' promotions, right? Like my son will get promoted here to first lieutenant in a couple of weeks, going to go to that promotion. But if you can, you can make the time, go to some time when your son or daughter is doing somebody's reenlistment, or they're doing somebody's promotion, or maybe they're presiding over a farewell to a soldier, or the farewell award, and watch how your son or daughter interacts with their soldiers and how they carry themselves when it isn't about them, like at a promotion ceremony, but it's about their soldier. And I've done that a couple of times, and that's where your pride wells up, because you're like, look at that, it's selfless service. They're talking about the soldier and the soldier's family and their contributions to their unit, and you really get a good feel for how you brought up your kids and how the Army's doing in developing your kids. So kind of a long-winded answer, I guess, to your question, but.
No, I think that's a really good insight as a parent and as a leader. That's a good observation. So I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. And you kind of fell into this Hollywood bit in a way, but would you have any advice for anybody that was interested in, I don't know, going from 3-star general into Hollywood? I don't know, or maybe even a major or something.
Yeah. It is it was funny because so Kathryn Bigelow does a superb job of hiring veterans or even reservists. So we're shooting up in the New York City area, northern New Jersey area, quite a few reservists. Their full-time job, they're actors, and then they do their reserve time. So they're on set, they're in uniform, made my job a little bit easier. It was very interesting because they're like, hey, I heard you're retired 3-star. It's like, yeah, I really am. And they're like, how long have you been in the movie business? And I was like, well, about 2 days. And this one guy, he goes, sir. And I was like, no, just call me Dan. All right. And they're like, no, I got to call you sir. I was like, whatever. And they're like, I've been doing this for 15 years. and you just come here and you skip right to the front of the line working with Kathryn Bigelow. And so, and I said, yeah, that's just luck. So anybody thinking about this, part of it's going to be luck, but the other part of it is, hey, go, if there's a casting call for extras or background, especially if it's a military movie, they need you. And Kathryn's looking for people that carry themselves right. She's looking for people that know how to talk. They have good haircuts, et cetera. Just their whole presence screams military. And so, yeah, just go for it. And there's lots of different, you can go online and look for military actors needed, and you'll be amazed at the number of movies or commercials or TV shows or whatever that's looking for military people. Sometimes you have to be willing to move, but other times, I mean, there's different where they're shooting at is all over the United States too. So you can Google wherever you're at, and it'll come up with multiple opportunities where people are doing the movie shoots.
Okay. Well, that's a good insider tip. And I think
don't get an agent either. Well, you can get I didn't get an agent because I was too naive. I didn't think I needed an agent, and they take 10%. So I feel like getting 10%.
Keep it all, right?
Yeah.
All right. When you're starting out, I'm sure maybe as the contracts get longer and more complicated, maybe that's when.
And the royalties from the House of Dynamite start rolling in at 2 cents a thing or whatever.
Right. And it's currently out on Netflix for everybody listening. You can find it there if you're interested in watching. But Dan, thank you so much for spending your time today with us. This is great. It's a pleasure. The movie's fantastic. Again, it's A House of Dynamite. You can find it on Netflix, and I hope everybody goes in and watches it. It's a good one.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks so much for the time here too, and being able to share my story with everybody. Appreciate it. Beat Navy.
Thank you for listening to the WPAOG Broadcast Network. Please take a moment to rate and review the show and subscribe to automatically get updates on a new episode. Thank you for listening.